Uh, House Regulatory Reform Committee will please come to order. Clerk, please take the roll.
Chair Aragona.
Here.
Representatives Fairbairn.
Here.
Wozniak.
Here.
Wenzel. Tisdall.
Here.
Hoadley.
Here.
Nyer.
Here.
Regas.
Here.
Thompson. Linting.
Here.
Liberati.
Here.
Carter.
Here.
Whitsett. Whitworth.
Here.
Neely. Devendorf.
Here.
Grant. Mr. Chair, you have 12 members present. You do have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And you know what? I forgot to bring the gavel. That just, I know. I feel like I'm getting off to a bad start already. I apologize. Representative Fairbairn moves to adopt the minutes from last meeting without objection, so ordered. All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We have a number of bills going over a variety of different topics, from a marijuana testing lab to a weights and measures bill, to bottle engraving, to mobile barber shops, which is where we're going to start. Representative Schmaltz is bringing forward House Bill 4911, and she's coming up with six-time NBA champion Michael Jordan, as well as her staff, Vinny Asunso. Take it away, guys.
Yes, I'm up here with royalty there, over there. Thank you, Chair and Committee, for letting us talk about the House Bill 4911. So this legislation is aimed at removing barriers to small business growth while also ensuring a fair market for mobile barbershops. So Michigan mobile barbershops are currently working in a gray area of the law, which they are forced to get a cosmetology license to continue operating despite already being a licensed barber. As it currently stands, Michigan law already allows mobile cosmetology establishments, also known as mobile salons, barbers to serve that same opportunity. So this legislation would amend the occupational code to allow licensed barbers to provide services outside of a traditional brick and mortar establishment, opening accessibility to veterans, the disabled, and senior communities in the state. This would result in the removal of outdated red tape, promote small business growth, and increase access to barbering service across Michigan. It's about fairness, modernization, and opportunity. And I'd like to introduce Michael Jordan, former Michigan State football player and owner of the Mobile Barber Company.
Hello. You forgot six-time MVP champion with that introduction. Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Michael Jordan. I'm a proud MSU alumni, new father, licensed barber, and owner of the Mobile Barber Company. It's a fully equipped barbershop on wheels based here in Lansing, Michigan. I've been cutting hair since I was about 12. Back then, we couldn't afford haircuts, so I learned it myself, and over time, what started as a necessity became a passion. I grew up in a big foster family, so I had plenty of heads to practice on, every texture, every personality. When COVID shut down the shops, those same people came back to me for help. I didn't want all that traffic in my house, so, and I didn't want to invade their places, so I researched going home to home where it was safe for everybody, and that was the birth of the Mobile Barber Company. I did a little bit of research. They were doing it in other states, and I thought, why not Michigan? So after going to Douglas J. Barber School in 21, I built out a professional, fully self-contained trailer, generator, sanitation, safety, equipment, the works. My setup isn't just a business, it's accessibility, dignity, and innovation on wheels. My goal is simple: bring the barbershop experience directly to people who can't get to one. I've cut veterans, seniors who can't drive, autistic children who need a calmer environment, kids bullied at school, executives, MSU athletes, and even families experiencing homelessness who need that boost of confidence before a job interview. And yet, under current Michigan law, mobile barbering exists in a gray area, and that uncertainty makes it hard for small businesses like myself to grow, or even hire apprentices or serve our communities legally and consistently. House Bill 4911 isn't just about licensing, it's about recognizing a modern way to serve people that's already working, just like food trucks change how we eat. Mobile barbershops can change how we connect, heal, and take pride in ourselves. I'm here today not just as a barber, but as a father, a small business owner, and a community member who believes in progress that serves the people. That's it. Thank you for your time, and for considering this bill that will help professionals like me continue to serve Michigan with dignity, professionalism, and care.
Thank you again, committee. I think it's mainly about helping our vulnerable people and giving them the right to do that and get out of the gray area that they're working in right now. Thank you. Anybody have any questions?
I will ask for questions. Thank you, Representative. Any questions? Yes, Representative Fairbairn.
Excuse me, Chair. Out of line.
Thank you, Representative Schmaltz, and thank you for your testimony today, Michael. Do you know of other mobile barber shops around the state? Are there other businesses like this, or are you one of the only ones you know of?
I am one of the only ones that do it the way I do it. I did see that there were 3 others, one in Grand Rapids, one in Flint, and I believe there was one in Lansing, but he was physically going into people's homes. I don't know if they're still active. I don't know if they're still doing it. I know one was, I said Grand Rapids, but it's more like Allendale. He was serving the GVSU population. And the one in Flint, I just saw the setup, but I didn't know where he operated or if he was still active. Upon my research, I tried to reach out to all these people, and I didn't get anything. So that's what led me believe that they're not active anymore.
Thank you.
Sure.
Representative Regas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. And as a fellow cosmetologist of 25 years, it's the best profession in the world. So my question is, Rep. Schmaltz, you said that currently cosmetologists can work in a mobile setting, like in the vehicle, or do they go in the homes? Because I'm familiar with like going and doing shut-ins. Like I've done all of that, but you have to have a cosmetology license, but you're already licensed. You're already a licensed barber.
Do you want
Is
to
that
answer
what you
this,
said?
Benny?
Good morning, Representative.
Hi.
So currently how it stands is cosmetologists, like licensed cosmetologists, are able to, within their license, either operate like a traditional brick and mortar shop or salon, as well as operate a mobile salon. So this mobile salon can be either going to people's houses, or they can operate like a trailer of sorts or a bus and have their services like within a contained like facility, like mobile facility.
Do we know why barbers were excluded in that?
I think this is one of those situations where it might have been the law just didn't look at it like in the same manner. They kind of they overlooked it essentially. So what this bill is doing is allowing an opportunity for barbers to have the same abilities as mobile salon owners.
Right, as they should have the same. And I know that there's been a push to mingle those two licenses together, barbering and cosmetologist, but I don't believe that is a good idea. And I do have legislation to create just a hairdresser license for men and women. So I think that would help with this as well, because it's becoming nearly impossible to find a barbering school at this point. So I would like to see you have the same capabilities with your barbering license and the same opportunities as a cosmetologist. So thank you.
Thank you.
And real quick, Rep. Schmaltz, so I guess I'm trying to understand. So hairdressers, cosmetologists can actually have a mobile barbershop right now.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And you verified that with Laura? Yes?
Yeah, it's been verified with Laura.
Yeah, okay. Thank you. Just want to make sure. Thank you. Rep. Carter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning. This is a great idea, and I say that because I have 2 siblings that are cosmetologists, brother-in-law who's a barber. I've only had 2 barbers in my lifetime. And as they get older and as their clientele gets older, I think this is a wonderful idea, especially coming out of COVID where you don't want to be in everybody's house. I just have one question. How much does a haircut cost now?
I charge $50. If you're doing facial hair as well, it's $55. Most of the time I'm in stationary areas. If you want me to come to you, I can provide that service, but that's a higher ticket. That usually runs between 120 to 130, just depending on where it's at. I also offer the services to weddings, grooms, events, and other types of organizations or events that could use the service.
Okay, great. And the reason I asked that question is because as a person who still gets his hair cut, there's a lot of men who God is cutting their hair now. They're a little bald. And then you have the, oh, my bad, fellas. And the young people, having a young son, dreads and other things. So when people hear the price, it's based on supply and demand and occupation. So
Yeah.
great idea. Thank you.
For sure. Thank you.
All right. Speaking of God's haircut, Representative Liberati.
All right, I don't like where this is going. Great idea. Legislation makes total sense. Just wondering, how do you get your customers? Like, how do you get word of mouth or?
A lot of it's word of mouth. When I came out of barber school, well, I made a name for myself in barber school, and I did a lot of, went to a lot of conventions. I invested heavily in what I do because I'm very passionate about what I do. And I think a lot of my clients feel that and they sense that when they're in my chair. But before I started this, I worked in a few barbershops, and all of my clientele just followed me. And they say, hey, wherever you are, we're going. So,
So you
that
have, like,
along
a
with social
website
media.
that tells where you're going to be at a certain day?
Yeah, there's a website, there's social media. A lot of it is Google. I get calls from California, and I'm like, hey, if you're willing to pay $1 million for me to drive out there, but yeah, a lot of it's word of mouth, a lot of it's social media, and that's usually how it happens. I steal a lot of clients too. People come and they don't go back to their old barbers, so it just happens that way.
Thanks.
Yep.
Any further questions? Oh, Representative Wozniak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On this bill, would a new license be required for the mobile location?
So the intent of this bill is for the mobile barber shop component of it being all contained within the already existing barber license, I should say. So it wouldn't create a new license. It would simply just expand the scope of what barbers are currently able to do to match the requirements that the cosmetologist license have.
And would it allow for multiple mobile barbershops under that license?
That's not something that we looked into. I can do a little bit more research and get back to your office about that.
Great, thank you.
All right. Any further questions? Seeing none. Thank you,
Thank
Representative Schmaltz. Next, we're going to move on to House Bill 4501, sponsored by Representative Mueller. This allows for the creation, or at least set up legally, of the Cannabis Regulatory Agency testing lab. And he's joined by Cannabis Regulatory Agency, Derek Sova. Oh, sorry, and Claire Patterson. Yes. Take it away, guys.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Currently, there's 17 independent testing labs in the state of Michigan that test the marijuana for the potency and accuracy to make sure that it's safe. What this bill does is allows the state of Michigan to operate their independent lab, which will be responsible for testing the marijuana that these other labs test, just to make sure the product is safe. Because what's going on is, if there's a certain lab or a big marijuana grower, it's lab shopping. They can go out and try to manipulate because they're the biggest customer. So they want to. What this does is just make it sure that the state comes in and does the independent testing on the lab. And I'll let Derek explain all the intricacies of the bill. But what this does is make sure since we have marijuana is legal now. It just makes sure the product that people are consuming is going to be safe, and it's an independent testing lab outside of private labs, just to be a double check on the product to make sure that what people are using is safe. And I'll turn it over to Derek for further testimony.
Thank you, Representative. Thanks to the sponsors as well. Representative Carter last year is a co-sponsor, this year as well. Derek Sova, CRA, also here is Claire Patterson. She is the director of the reference lab and has spent the last 2 years getting it up to where it is today. And I think some of you are going to come out later on and see sort of the progress on that lab. But yeah, like Representative Mueller mentioned, and when we came and presented in the committee a couple of months ago about the challenges facing the industry, you may remember one of the things we talked about was this issue of lab shopping, right? Where you have these independent testing labs who are responsible for ensuring the safety of the product. Unfortunately, they are oftentimes forced into a situation where they'll have a large customer come to them and say, hey, we want you to test our marijuana. And they might test it and come back to them and say, okay, the potency is lower and you had some contaminants in the marijuana. And that large grower might say, well, that's interesting because your competitor tested it and said the potency was higher and there were no contaminants. So what are we going to do about that? And so now these labs find themselves in the position where they can stand by the results they know are accurate and run the risk of losing that business. Or maybe they go back and say, well, let me run my test again. And they go and they test it and they say, oh, turns out the potency is higher and there are no contaminants. And so now we know that there are some things in that marijuana that are not safe, but the label says it's safe. It goes onto the shelf. A consumer picks it up, assumes that it's safe because the label says it is, and now they have this product that, again, the label is not accurate. There might be some things in there that are harmful. And so this is not a Michigan problem. Again, if you remember from that presentation a couple of months ago, it's a national problem. It is a growing problem. And one of the issues is because there's not anybody right now who can go in and independently verify and check to make sure that what Lab A is doing and Lab B is doing and Lab C is doing, all of them are accurate. And so the goal of this lab, we're not taking away any of the testing that the private labs are doing. We're not looking to compete with them. Essentially, we're going to be the umpire calling balls and strikes, going in, doing audits, doing quality checks to make sure that, again, those tests can be relied upon by consumers so they know that what's on the label is actually what's in the product. The other thing we're going to be using the lab for, a big resource this is going to be, is when it comes to doing investigations. Right now, if we suspect that there's some illicit activity or there's something going on nefarious, maybe we suspect that there's product on the shelf that the label is not accurate, that it wasn't tested accurately. Right now, we don't have a way to independently verify that. We have to ask some of the other private licensed labs, who again are competitors in this space, to conduct our investigations for us. And I think that's problematic for any number of reasons, right? When you have market participants also being responsible for doing investigations, essentially their competitors. Now, they don't know that's what they're doing at the time, but that's essentially the testing they're doing when we call them up and say, hey, we need you to go to this retail location, grab this product, take it back to your lab and test it, tell us what's in there. And so this would allow us to do that ourselves. If we suspect that there's an issue with a test somewhere or maybe a product on the shelf is not safe, we could go, grab it off the shelf, do the testing in-house. It would save us from having to ask the private lab. It would save the private lab from having to absorb that cost, which they do now. It would speed up the investigation, again, helping to get contaminated product off the shelf much quicker. And again, it would just improve the integrity of that investigation because it was done, again, by the agency and not by one of the independent labs. And so those are two of the big reasons we're looking for this lab, to operate this lab. There's a lot of other reasons just in terms of improving science, improving testing methods overall. Again, this is not something that's been done for a very long time, right? I mean, we've only been testing marijuana in a regulated setting in this country for a handful of years in this context, right? And so we're still working on developing and optimizing and improving the consistency, the reliability, and the accuracy of the different methods that are being used. So we got funding for the lab back in FY24. It's been under construction and planning and development for the last 2 years. Essentially what this bill does, again, marijuana is still federally illegal, right? And so when the ballot initiative was passed, it basically said individuals can have marijuana up to a certain amount. It said licensees can possess marijuana. There's nothing specifically allowing the agency to possess marijuana like we're going to possess it in the lab. And so all this bill really does, I think it's two little subdivisions. It basically says we can operate the lab and then our staff can possess marijuana for the purposes of doing the testing that I just described. So fairly simple, fairly straightforward. Again, the lab was already funded. The funding is accounted for in our current appropriations. We just want to make sure there's no question or concern about our ability to actually possess marijuana for use in the lab. So that's the 10,000-foot overview. Happy to, I don't want to say answer any questions. Entertain questions.
Great. We'll move on to questions real quick. Derek, as you mentioned, the funding for the lab was already put forward, not this past budget, but the budget before last term, correct?
Yeah, 24, yep.
Okay. And I believe my office has sent out invites for today, as a matter of fact, for the committee to go see it. If any of the committee members, for some reason, didn't get that, please reach out to either my office or to Derek so that we can kind of do a tour and take a look. Derek, one other question. Last week we had testimony from Loom Cannabis regarding hemp beverages. Would this lab play a role in ensuring, like a quality assurance for consumers with hemp beverages? Could it, I guess?
It absolutely could. If we ended up moving toward a model where hemp beverages were legal in some fashion, produced in some fashion, distributed in some fashion, if there was a role for, again, the existing private labs to do testing of those, we would be able to audit those tests potentially, just like we would be auditing the tests of the products on the market. We do have a number of marijuana producers who produce marijuana beverages. Functionally, it would be the same type of product, and so it would just be expanding the scope of what the private labs test and then expanding the scope of the type of testing that we would then be auditing.
Thank you. Rep. Tisdale.
Thank you, Chair Aragona. Quality players want to be tested. They want to have their quality proven.
Yes.
Is there a mechanism, or can we add on to create a mechanism for like a Better Business Bureau sticker on, so that the legitimate quality players can illustrate to the public or demonstrate to the public that we are regularly tested and certified. If it's still behind the scenes, then the customer doesn't know from one retailer to the next if they're participating in this legitimate, auditing and testing that you brought up.
Yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about the proficiency test program?
Yeah, absolutely. So I can speak a little bit to this. I love that idea. It's not something that we're at yet, but I think it's important that our consumers are able to know that their products, whatever their preferred products are of an expected quality. And I think that kind of transparency will help sort of ease that along. Some of the other ways that we're able to kind of make this public is doing, for example, as Derek said, proficiency tests, where essentially the labs will all come together, we'll all test the same product, that would include us as well, and compare our results, kind of side by side. There will be some minor deviation just because that's science, right? But we should all be within the same ballpark. And so by providing these tests, we can make these assessments of the labs and ourselves, and we can make that information available to the public as well. I think there are a lot of options to expand that in the future, as you had suggested, giving some sort of accolades to those folks who want to be audited, who want to have quality product.
Yeah, the real quality, legitimate players want to make that known to the public, and so I'd be more than happy to work with anybody to try and create and support such a method. So thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Liberati.
If you're testing and you go into a shop, pull something off the shelf, and it's been tested by another company, the owner's doing everything he's supposed to do, but you get it to your lab and it's not what it says, what's the next step? Like, is that owner in trouble or that lab in trouble?
So it would depend on the exact circumstances. So if we were to go out and do a shelf audit, I should back up. Shelf audits are something that we want to do after we give the laboratories that are currently licensed the support that they need to be honest and accurate. So that's really the first step, and I want to say, having the labs be accurate is the most important thing. After we make sure that the labs have the support that they need, we do off-the-shelf audits, for example. If we find something that is contaminated, then I would say that leads to an investigation, and ultimately it depends on, where that issue happened, right? So we could go back to the labs, look at their data, and say, hey, you guys did the testing correctly. This all looks great. So where's the next step in the problem? Is it the cultivator? Possibly we send our enforcement team out to do that investigation. It could be the retailer as well, but it's being able to up front kind of sequester the labs and hopefully have that support for them so they can do good testing, and then be able to kind of dig down further so that we can get the right answer and place the blame where it correctly belongs.
Representative Nyer.
Thank you, Chair. Would the growers or the processors be able to actually come directly to you and hire you as a tester, or isn't that in the realm yet?
So at this point, we are not looking to do that. Right now, they use the private labs to do their testing. We're not looking to compete with what the private labs are doing, right? That's not the purpose of this lab. And so we would still ask that the growers, the manufacturers actually still use the private labs to do their testing. Our role has been described would be to make sure that those private labs are testing accurately and the results they're producing are accurate.
Rep. Carter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Rep. Mueller, for bringing this up. This has been a long process. And what this does is create the expectation for consumers. If we're going to regulate it and legislate it, there needs to be an expectation of quality. So the other labs, there was some pushback, but I think that doing this will bring that consumer protection and satisfaction that we probably need in this industry. So thank you for doing this, Rep. Mueller.
Any further questions? Seeing none. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have one other card of support. Michigan Cannabis Industry Association does not wish to speak and supports the bill. All right, moving right along. We do have a package of bills, House Bill 4678 and 4679, sponsored by myself and Vice Chair Liberati. This has to do with weights and measures. We will take those up at this time, and the committee will go at ease. Call the chair.
The committee will come to order. All right, the chair recognizes Representative Aragona and Liberati to testify on your bills.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll kick it off, and I'll keep it short and sweet for everybody. This bill is meant to help some small businesses, especially businesses who rent out equipment, such as large equipment. Let's say, a small excavator if you have a project, a larger project that you might have at your home, or even for small businesses that might not have the capital to or the need for certain types of excavating type equipment or what have you, and they rent it. So when they go to rent it, there could be a full tank of gas. If they return it with, let's say, half a tank of gas, in the past, these rental companies have charged them for half a tank of gas, 5, 10, 15 gallons, whatever that is. In recent years, the department has started to say that is against the law. Why would that be? When any of us go to the gas station, fill up our gas tank, those gas pumps are very expensive, but they're also extremely accurate per state law. The department has started to take those laws and those accuracies and apply them even to some of these rental companies. That's very onerous. That's a extreme burden that we're going to put on these small businesses. If they have to either buy that equipment or what have you, many of them can't. So they now need to just start charging consumers a higher amount, because at that point, if you can't charge per gallon, you have to charge them for all the gas that could potentially be in a gas tank. So it gets very difficult for these small businesses to rent out this equipment. Rep. Liberati is also a sponsor, and I think he has actually some direct testimony from your small business, correct?
I use these companies a lot. Piece of equipment breaks, chop saw, little backhoe, mini backhoe, it's not worth me having one of those. So I'll rent it when I need it for this specific job. So usually small equipment, small gas tanks. We're not talking a lot of gas here. The bill actually limits to what we want to do to 3,000 gallons a year. A gas station, a busy gas station might do 3,000 gallons in a day. So it's not, they're not making money off of this. Also, when I'm returning my equipment, I don't want to get in line at a gas station. I want to get back to the job, take it back to the rental place. It's a convenience, and it makes sense. And we had this before 2023. Now it's become a problem. So I think this is a good solution for it. And we have people that will testify more in the weeds about it.
Well, thank you guys for the testimony. Is there any questions for members of the committee? All right, thank you. The committee will stand at ease at the call of the chair.
Committee will come to order. I'm going to invite up Kevin Gurn, Scott Irwin, and Heath Colley to speak on the bills. Scott is from Deluxe Rental. Kevin is from American Rental Association, and Heath is from Sunbelt Rentals, all speaking in support of the bill. Kyle? You're joining. All right. And Kyle is from Chet's Rental, also in support of the bill. Take it away, guys.
All right, good morning. Good morning, Chair. Is this on? There we go. All right. Good morning, and thank you, Chair, for your time, and the committee for your time as well. For the record, my name is Kevin Gurn with the American Rental Association. To give a little bit of background on myself and the association, we represent rental companies across the U.S. We have two different segments, one being the equipment segment, general tool, and we also have a party and event side as well. This bill specifically, and this issue specifically, speaks more to our equipment side of the industry, as you've already kind of heard. Just to give a little bit of a breakdown, in Michigan, we have approximately 217 members with approximately another 118 branches. And these members, these rental companies, will serve the construction industry and infrastructure projects and other things across the state. So this bill is something that we feel is going to provide that customer service and the ability for these rental companies to top off those tanks prior to that next rental coming in and the person picking up that piece of equipment and going out the door. Today with me, I have a few of our members here seated, and they're going to talk specifically to the situations that they've dealt with.
Hi, my name is Kyle Keeley. I own Chet's Rental. We have 8 locations in southeast Michigan. In 2023, we had a customer return a front-end loader after a one-day rental, and it was empty on fuel, and there's 25 gallons of fuel in there. We charge double pump because we are actually going to the gas station, filling up 30-gallon caddies at a time and bringing them back and filling fuel up. All of our equipment leaves full of fuel. As Representative Liberati said, that for convenience, we want them to be able to go directly to the job site and work. When we charged this customer for the entire fuel tank, he was not happy. Within 2 weeks, the Ways and Means did an audit with us, and sure enough, we were selling by the gallon without metered pumps. Chet's Rental has been in operation since 1946. We had never had a problem before. We received a cease and desist order. We quickly put together a plan to be in compliance. Sent that into him the next day, and there was full go ahead with, we cannot charge by the gallon, we can only charge fuel service charges for putting fuel in. And I think we started with the plan of, well, we've got a quarter charge, a half charge, and they came back and said, you can't do that. It has to be one set price, all or nothing on that price. And that's when we came to the realization that if I send a machine out with 20 gallons and I have to set the price before, well, we're going to have to set that price at the full tank. And I just had it last Friday going out. I heard a customer say, wait a minute, I thought this was an $800 rental. Why is this $1,100? Well, sir, there's fuel in there as long as you bring it back full. So you have this back and forth you never used to have. It used to be before 2023, it was, hey, it's full of fuel, it's $6 a gallon, bring it back full, or we'll charge you for what you've used in it. And if it went out half tank, bring it back with a half a tank. It's really complicated things, and with the 8 locations, I don't have the funds to go ahead and put in metered things. I think, Heath, you just said you got a digital pump at your facility, and how much did that cost?
$20,000 to $30,000.
For one pump at 8 locations. We sell about $60,000 to $65,000 worth of fuel a year at the 8 locations. It wouldn't be feasible for us to put in pumps. And for some of our locations, we don't have the room to put in a pump to meet the regulations. Thank you for your time.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, board members. I'm Scott Irwin with Deluxe Rental in Ypsilanti, Michigan. We were also audited and fined by Weights and Measures for distributing without, having an accurate pump. And I started working on this problem right after we were fined in 2023 and helped come up with some of the ideas that are in the bill. We have kind of capped our sales at 3,000 gallons, as Mr. Chair mentioned earlier. And we also are planning on using flow meters that are accurate to 1%, plus or minus. And we can't distribute out of any tanks that are bigger than 110 gallons. We have to distribute only to equipment that has been out on contract. So we can't sell anything to the general public, and we don't want to sell anything to the general public. Right now, we were told that we have to do things the way that rental car companies do, and that is send the car out with a full tank of gas, and if it doesn't come back with a full tank of gas, then you get charged for the full tank. It's a little bit easier in the rental car industry because it's a car, and all gas stations have gas, so it's easy to pull in, fill up a car, and leave and take it back to, the establishment. With equipment, it's not that easy because not every gas station has diesel pumps. That's number one. And the stations that do have diesel pumps aren't always set up to handle a full-size truck and a 24-foot trailer. So a lot of times when you get into these stations and, you pull forward far enough to put fuel into the equipment because it's on the trailer, then you're either blocking an entrance, blocking an exit. I mean, it's really not as easy as pulling up to a pump and putting fuel in. So what we're asking is just a common sense solution to a problem that we're having, and that is if people don't bring it back full, we state on our contract that if it's not returned full, that we'll be using a flow meter that's plus or minus 1%, and we're charging you X amount of money per gallon, and we will charge you based on what the flow meter says we put into the equipment. That eliminates the need for them to stop, and a lot of our homeowners that rent the equipment, they don't pull these kind of things very often anyway. And for us, it just is going to improve our customer service, and it's going to be a lot easier for everybody that's concerned, including us, because we want to comply with the law. And right now, I just have a real issue with somebody bringing back a machine that's only 3 gallons light on fuel and charging them $250. I mean, we have a lot of competition in our area. We have a Sunbelt in our area that's got a pump. It's 3 miles away from us. So if that same customer can go to Sunbelt and pay for 3 gallons of gas, and they bring it back to us and we charge them $250, we're not going to have that customer very long. So it absolutely makes us a little less competitive than our competition, and it's hard enough the way it is right now anyway. So that's kind of where we're at with the bills. Thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you guys for being here. We're going to go to questions. Keith, your company Sunbelt, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. And how big of a company are you guys?
We have about 1,600 locations in North America, and then also locations in the UK.
Okay.
Ireland as well.
And I'm sorry, how many locations do you two have?
I've got 1.
8.
8. Okay. So Keith, you're here in support. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but your company can afford this regulation, but you're here in support of these little guys.
Absolutely.
Okay. And then, so you were talking about, what if somebody brings back a piece of equipment with 3, 4, 5 gallons less? Now you got to charge them a full tank.
That is
right?
correct. That's the directive that we've received from Weights and Measures.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay. And on your equipment, what are some of the larger tanks? What capacity do they have?
The largest tank that we've got is a 50-gallon generator. But most of the tanks average between 8 gallons and 20 gallons.
I'd rather be charged for the 3. Okay. Representative Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Aragona and Liberati, for bringing forward this legislation. I think none of it makes any sense. I'm very supportive of it, and I think even Liberati, having a small business and being able to testify how it's impacted his business, even brings more clarity to those of us that aren't in the business. I just have jotted down some notes. So do you know if these regulations that are put on you, are they also put on the big box stores, like Home Depot and Lowe's, when they rent tools?
We were told that, yes, any rental store that fuels up equipment would have to have a metered pump, yes.
And then, just real quick, if I may, how are you storing it now? Well, I'm kind of trying to understand, because I understand you're putting just a small amount into these tools. You're not filling up a car, you're putting a small amount. So how are you storing it prior to them having a problem with it? And then, is this only diesel, or is it diesel, gas, and then I'm also assuming some tools take oil and gas, right? They're a mix.
Yeah, that's a two-cycle.
Yeah.
We've been able to overcome the gasoline portion of this just by increasing our price.
Okay.
Because most of the gasoline equipment we have is a single-gallon tank. So instead of dealing with them bringing back whatever amount of fuel, we increased our price to compensate for that, and we tell them they don't have to refuel the equipment.
So you were able to just store the gas on property?
Yeah,
in
we've
smaller
got
containers.
30-gallon gas caddies, like Kyle does, that have hand pumps on them, and you squeeze a lever to get the fuel to come out.
So this is pretty much focused just to diesel?
Well, some people may have bigger units of gasoline. We don't.
Okay.
It's definitely, for us, more diesel, but it could be a combination of the two.
Now, how were you storing the diesel prior to them saying there was a problem with your not having a metered?
Same way. I mean, we were pumping it out of a caddy and estimating gallons based on tank size. Most of the bigger equipment, all of the bigger equipment has gauges on it. So you know if there's a quarter tank, a half tank, and anything in between. So we were estimating gallon use based on tank size and fuel left in it.
Yeah, well, thank you for the information, and thank you for bringing this before us.
Representative Wozniak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think you've already answered this. You've accommodated the two-cycle engine and incorporated the oil and the amount you charge.
That is correct. Yeah, most two-cycle tanks are very small. So we'll send out a gallon of fuel with the two-cycle tank, and we've just included that in the price of the rental.
Okay, and then diesel, it's just per gallon?
Right now?
Yeah.
No, we can't charge by the gallon right now. Right now, we have to charge a full tank if it comes back anything less than full.
Okay. And would you imagine someday that you would have EV going in?
Yeah, that's coming, and EV has been introduced at a number of platforms, excavators, and that I'm sure will just be figured into the cost of the rental.
Okay. And hydrogen?
No hydrogen stuff yet.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, Rep. Wozniak. Real quick, I did want to ask you, with these new regulations, you now need to send somebody out to fill up a full tank, right? Because you can't do it on site unless you invest the $20,000 to $30,000 to get the proper equipment. How many hours a week do you think you're going to have to spend sending people out to fill up these tanks, bring them back so that you have a full tank for your customers when they're going out the door?
I can imagine a skid steer loader coming back with not full, and us needing it. The guy wants us, go ahead, charge me, I don't have time. That's going to be a 45, 50-minute round trip from the time you load it back up, get it to the gas station, wait in line, fill it up, bring it back. If I have to do that 5, 6, 7 times a week per store, then you know, you're looking at 20 hours a week of time just spent doing fuel.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So that's a high personnel cost. I mean, that's basically a part-time job for somebody just to do that.
Definitely hinders our ability to run a smooth operation.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you guys, appreciate it. Next, we're going to bring up MDARD. They have submitted a card in opposition of the bills. MDARD? No? Submitted a card in opposition? Nobody's here? Okay. I'll ask my staff if they do show up. We'll give them time to talk. I do have some other cards to read in. Don Meyer, DNA Rental Depot, does not wish to speak in support of the bill. Tim Cartholes, HP Forklift, does not wish to speak in support of the bill. Matt Craig, Ready Rental, does not wish to speak in support of the bill. Luis DePonio, Canton Canopies, Inc., does not wish to speak, supports the bill. Suzik Couture, TC Rentals, does not wish to speak, supports the bill. Scott Irwin does not wish to speak, from Deluxe Rental, does not wish to speak, supports the bill. Gary Booms, Booms Rent All, does not wish to speak, supports the bill. Lori Gardner, Rent Smart, does not wish to speak, supports the bill. Jonathan Quirk, Every Joy Rent All, does not wish to speak, supports the bill. Zachary Mancour, Allied Equipment Rental, does not wish to speak, supports the bill. Bruce Jones, Allied Equipment Rental, does not wish to speak, supports the bill. Nick Rossland, Rent Right, Inc., does not wish to speak, supports the bill. Kevin Gurn, American Rental Association, does not wish to speak, supports the bill. And those are, I did not read where the cities that they're from, but it looks like they're everywhere from Detroit to Bad Axe to the West Side to Muskegon, so they are companies from all over. I think that's all the cards we have, yes? Yep, got that one. All right. Moving right along to our last item, I'm going to ask Representative Mueller and Tony Mitchell to come up and speak on House Bill 4501. Hoadley, what did I say? I said Mueller. I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong one. Hold on. Mueller. House Bill 5059, sponsored by Representative Hoadley, as well as Tony Mitchell. And Tony bought props. Look at you. Tony is from the Michigan Spirits Association, and he is in support of the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, I'm Representative Hoadley. Again, thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee for allowing me to testify on behalf of House Bill 5059, a simple bill that will allow a spirit vendor to provide custom bottle engraving service for a consumer. Currently, liquor laws in our state prohibit vendors from providing this type of engraving service. Yet, this practice is common in many other states, where it has become a popular way for businesses to personalize their products for weddings, holidays, and other special occasions. By allowing engraving under regulated conditions, House Bill 5059 gives Michigan a fair opportunity to compete in a growing national market. To be clear, this bill does not change who can sell spirits, where they can be sold, or the safeguards that ensure compliance with Michigan Liquor Control Commission standards. It simply provides a clear path for a lawful, value-added service that enhances consumer experience without compromising product safety or integrity. House Bill 5059 supports small business owners, strengthens Michigan's hospitality and tourism sectors, and keeps our state's liquor laws modern and competitive. In a time when we are working hard to reduce red tape and help our local economy thrive, this is exactly the type of legislation we should advance. I urge the committees to consider a yes vote on House Bill 5059, and thank you for your time and consideration. With me today is Mr. Tony Mitchell, who can speak to institutional knowledge, insights, and of course, how this would work in the real world application. So thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Mitchell.
Thank you, Representative Hoadley. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, and thank you, Representative Carter, for working on this with us last year as well. I am Tony Mitchell with the Michigan Spirits Association. I've worked in the industry for over 25 years. The Michigan Spirits Association, also known as the MSA, has been around in the state of Michigan since 1967, almost 60 years, working with the state, excuse me, working with the state to responsibly grow the spirits industry. The spirits industry brings the state of Michigan over $600 million a year. And I want to clarify for everybody, because sometimes this gets confusing. Beer, wine, and spirits are all alcoholic beverages, but not all alcoholic beverages are spirits. Spirits are your higher proof liquors, generally sold in bottles. And when I say $600 million a year from the spirits industry, that's strictly spirits. And that's over 10 times what beer and wine brings to the state of Michigan. That's every year. One of the ways that the MSA partners with the state is working on what we're here today for, to codify some aspects of the business that have been gray for years and could be deemed as illegal practice if we don't clean it up. The engraving of bottles is exactly that, a practice that's done across the country by large and small suppliers as an added value for consumers. Michigan is one of the top 10 states for spirit sales in the country, and one of the very few where engraving bottles is an issue. In my career, I mentioned over 25 years, I worked across the country. I was a director of national accounts in my last position, and I had to be familiar with the laws in all 50 states because we were working in all 50 states. Suppliers invest large amounts of capital into the process of engraving bottles. They have to purchase engraving machines, which most times cost more than $10,000 each. They purchase vans to carry the machines around. They hire personnel to go out and do engravings. So it's a big investment that all filters back into the economy. Consumers look forward to this value-added service that generates incremental sales for the brands and for the state of Michigan. I'd be surprised if at least one of you haven't either received an engraved bottle as a gift or given an engraved bottle as a gift, but don't raise your hands because that might have been illegal in the state of Michigan. This bottle I brought as a sample was given to me as a gift. It was actually engraved in the state of Ohio because I worked in the division at the time that included Ohio. And as dated on the bottle, 2009, some consumers just hold these as trophies, as I did with this one. It says Tony Mitchell, Employee of the Month. So it's not even always consumed, but talk about incremental sales. That's the best kind of incremental sales you can get, is selling bottles that aren't even open. And by the way, I'm happy to pass this around and let anybody sample this to test the quality if they need to today. The point in question has always been if this violates aid and assist laws, but it isn't aiding any retailer. It's a benefit for consumers. It's very popular with all of your constituents. They look for it. I get calls every year with consumers trying to find out where they can get bottles engraved. It's a benefit for the consumer, and this would be available throughout the state. As I said, it's not benefiting any retailer. It's set up so that it can be done by at events where the companies can bring in machines and do this, or by filling out an order form. The consumer would purchase a bottle, and then when the company can come around with their van and engrave it, they would do so, and then the consumer would come back and pick up the bottle at a later time. In summary, this bill clarifies a practice that's been in existence for years by codifying it, and provides a great benefit to the citizens of the state and the state at the expense of the suppliers that are willing to do it. It's a win-win. Appreciate your time today and open for any questions you might have.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Representative Hoadley. Any questions from the committee? Representative Wozniak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Does the bottle have to be sold before it gets engraved?
Yes, it does.
Okay, but you say you were commemorating a Memorial Day or something. You couldn't bring in 30 bottles, put them on the shelf, and just sell them?
Under the way that the bill is written, bottles could be engraved for sale in advance. But if a consumer wants a bottle with a specific engraving on it, they would have to purchase a bottle first.
Okay, but generically you could do it?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Regas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So would people be able to order from other states to have bottles engraved now? How do people get engraving now if they wanted that? Could they get it online or?
Under current laws, I believe it's illegal to ship in bottles from out of state. But because this is just a gray area, I will say that it's been done in the state of Michigan, and we're just trying to clean this up to make it legal.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Cool. Any further questions? And thank you for offering samples. We don't get samples in, Finance Committee, Representative Tisdall, so nah. Yeah. Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you guys. Appreciate it. I do have some cards on this. All right. On this bill, House Bill 5059, Megan Jackson does not wish to speak, supports the bill. She is from Pernod Ricard. I think that's French. Pernod Ricard. I don't know how to say that, but you guys get it. Rabel Haneke does not wish to speak, supports the bill from Diageo. Jim Moore in Luxco Distilling does not wish to speak, supports the bill. Andy Deloney from Discus does not wish to speak, supports the bill. Brian Pizzuti, RNDC, does not wish to speak, supports the bill. Sam Audwash from West Branch does not wish to speak, supports the bill. Dennis Weiss, Weiss Distilling, does not wish to speak, supports the bill. Randy Barnhart, Southern Glaziers Wine and Spirits, does not wish to speak, supports the bill. And Dave Martin is also available for questions if we need. From Michigan Liquor Control Commission, does not wish to speak, supports the bill. I'm not seeing anybody signal me that we need to bring up MLCC for questions, but I do appreciate you being here, Dave. Seeing no other business before the committee, I do need a motion by Representative Liberati to excuse absent members. Without objection, so ordered. And seeing no further business before the committee, we are adjourned. Thank you.